Welcome to the channel today. We don't just revisit a chapter from history. We step into a time when a nation tore itself apart, when brother fought brother, neighbor turned against neighbor, and the land we call the United States stood divided by fear, by pride, and by pain. This isn't just a story of battles and generals. It's a story of mothers who lost sons, of letters written in candlelight and never received, of dreams buried beneath the smoke of war. This is the story of the American Civil War, a story not just of destruction, but of rebirth, of sacrifice, sorrow, and the long road toward freedom. So take a deep breath, open your heart, and travel with us to a time when America nearly lost itself, only to rise again. All right, let's dive into the video. The American Civil War in the mid-19th century. The United States stood on the edge of a storm not brought by foreign invasion, but by internal division, a clash of values, of economics, of morality. The North and the South were two very different worlds sharing the same flag, and the issue that drove them apart more than anything was slavery. In the Southern states, slavery was deeply woven into the economy. Cotton plantations relied heavily on enslaved African Americans, and the South feared that losing slavery would mean losing everything. The Northern states, on the other hand, were becoming industrialized and more progressive. Many in the North viewed slavery as a moral evil that should be abolished. As America expanded westward, tensions rose over whether new states would allow slavery. Temporary compromises like the Missouri Compromise, the Compromise of 18, and the Kansas-Nebraska Act to keep the peace, but only deepened the division. Then came the Dred Scott decision in 1857. The Supreme Court ruled that African Americans, free or enslaved, could not be citizens. The North was enraged. The South was emboldened. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln was elected president without winning a single Southern state. Though he promised not to interfere with slavery where it already existed, Southern leaders saw his election as a threat. Within weeks, Southern states began to secede from the Union. South Carolina was the first, followed by 6 others. They formed the Confederate States of America, with Jefferson Davis as president. Lincoln refused to accept. To him, the Union was sacred, but the South stood firm. The first conflict came at Fort Sumter. In April 18, when Confederate forces fired on the Union fort in Charleston, South Carolina. After 34 hours of bombardment, the Union surrendered. The Civil War had begun. Lincoln called for 75,000 volunteers. In response, more Southern states joined the Confederacy. America was officially at war with itself. Early battles were brutal. At Bull Run, the Union suffered a shocking defeat. The North realized this war would not be over quickly. In 1862, the Battle of Shiloh saw more than 23,000 casualties in just 2 days. Then came Antietam, the bloodiest single day in American history, with over 22,000 men killed, wounded, or missing. As the war dragged on, its purpose began to evolve. In January 1863, Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, declaring all enslaved people in Confederate territory to be free. It didn't free everyone, but it gave the Union a new moral mission. Over 180,000 black soldiers would go on to fight for the North, many risking everything for a country that had long denied them basic rights. The war had now become more than a battle for territory. It was a fight for freedom. In 1863, the tide began to turn. 2 major Union victories reshaped the war's direction. First, at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, Union troops faced off against General Robert E. Lee's Confederate Army in a 3-day battle. The Union held their ground. Over 50,000 men were killed or wounded. It was the bloodiest battle of the war, and Lee never again tried to invade the North. At the same time, in the West, General Ulysses S. Grant captured the Confederate stronghold of Vicksburg, Mississippi. This gave the Union full control of the Mississippi River and effectively split the Confederacy in half. Lincoln, seeing hope, delivered the Gettysburg, addressed just 272 words that redefined the meaning of the war and Americans that the nation was founded on liberty and equality. In 1864, Grant was placed in command of all Union armies. His strategy was simple: pursue and destroy. He launched relentless attacks on Lee's army in Virginia. Meanwhile, General William Tecumseh Sherman began a brutal campaign in the South. His famous March to the Sea cut through Georgia, destroying railroads, factories, and anything that could help the Confederate war effort. His goal was to break the South's will to fight. By early 1865, the Confederacy was collapsing. Its economy was in ruins. Its cities were burning. Its soldiers were starving. On April 9, 1865, at Appomattox Courthouse in Virginia, General Robert E. Lee surrendered to General Grant. The Civil War was over, but just 5 days later, a new tragedy struck. President Lincoln was assassinated in Washington, D.C. by John Wilkes Booth, a Southern sympathizer. Lincoln's death shocked the nation. He had preserved the Union and freed millions, but he would not live to see the country's recovery. The cost of the Civil War was unimaginable. Over 620,000 people died, more than in any other American war. Entire towns were destroyed. Families were torn apart. But from the ashes, a new nation began to rise. Slavery was abolished with the 13th Amendment. The United States remained united. But the scars of war and racism would remain for generations. The American Civil War was not just a conflict of guns and soldiers. It was a conflict of ideas. It asked the nation the hardest question: who gets to be free? And its answer, though paid for in blood, reshaped the future of America. Thank you for watching this journey through the American Civil War. If you found this story meaningful, please like, comment, and subscribe. And always remember, history isn't just in the past. It shapes who we are and who we choose to become.